because I shop at Sprouts. Is anyone else noticing their grocery bill going up a lot? Because I shop at Sprouts 90% of the time. And I used to spend about $100 for 2 bags of groceries. That would probably be roughly 2 to 3 days worth of food for me and my family. And that's gone from $100 to like $140, $150 now. And that's a big jump. I mean, I know tariffs and everything going into effect.
Welcome to Economic Reality, folks. Prices are still rising. Let's go ahead and finish up this video from this individual, and we've got a lot of economic financial news to get into.
Prices are supposed to rise, but that's a lot. That's like a 50% increase in the span of, 5 months, 6 months. Just wondering if anyone else is noticing that. And by the way, how are people affording this? Like, if you're someone who needs to be on a strict grocery budget every month, like, how do you account for that? That's a huge price increase. It's crazy.
All right, people, that was XO Andrea Naturally, and she's laying out the obvious, or XO Andrea Actually, sorry. Just trying to get these screen names right. She's laying out the obvious, folks. Prices are still rising. People are getting deeper into financial struggles, to say the least. I mean, take a look at this article here, then we'll move on to some other news here, folks. Even people making 6 figures plus are having problems right now because costs are still rising, costs are going up. We're starting to see a transformation in the housing market with vacancies and rentals at a multi-year high. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in this report and tell you what that means for the rest of the economy. It's definitely an indicator, a canary in the coal mine, if you will, of what's happening in this economy and what's going to be headed towards us here around the corner very shortly. But first, take a look at this. Even households earning $150,000 are struggling with credit card debt and car payments, folks. So it's no longer you make 6 figures, you're doing well, you're stress-free. Even $150,000. So it got worse. What was it, 8 months ago? We saw the report about $100,000 income earners were struggling. Now it's moved up to $150,000. And what's it going to be a year from now? $200,000, and you're still stressed out about making ends meet, about making your car payment, about making your credit card payment. Now, some of you may be saying, man, if I made $150,000, I'd be living large because maybe your expenses aren't so bad. But a lot of times what happens is when people earn more money, what they'll do is they want to look like they earn money or that much money, so they'll go out and get the biggest loan possible. Is someone making $150K going to be driving a car that's 10 years old and paid off that they could just pay cash for? No, they're going to go out and get the biggest loan so they can impress people that they don't even know on the freeway and on the roads, and probably impress a few friends and people they do know, coworkers, because they're going to want to look like how much they're making. They're going to want to look like their wealth or their income, when actually if more people would just try to look the opposite, then they would be in a lot less trouble. So if you're making $150K, why not drive an older car that's paid off, right? And you'll be less likely to get carjacked and robbed, and people will be less likely to want to take your car too. So maybe you'll even be safer, but I mean, the car is going to break down, you're going to have expenses, so there's always that aspect of it. But it's pretty interesting, folks, that these incomes are no longer making people stress-free. And in fact, if you look at the stress levels, even with grocery bills, it's just got worse. Let's take a look at this, folks. Here you go out of the AP. The vast majority of U.S. adults are stressed about grocery costs. New poll finds. I mean, of course, when 70% plus people are living paycheck to paycheck, most people are going to be stressed about grocery bills. And now it's even people making 6 figures plus. The vast majority of adults are stressed about groceries as prices continue to rise. And we showed you the inflation reports, and inflation has been continuous, right? And this year, over 6 months now with the new administration, prices are still rising. The cost of living now is higher than what it was in January. So we've had a full 6 months to let this play out. But we told you this back in January. We told you prices were going to go higher. Now, are there a couple spots of relief? Yes, rents are coming down a bit. Home prices are coming down a bit in some areas, but overall, the median price just hit an all-time high again last month, right? So we're seeing way more inflation than any sort of price relief, that's for sure. But folks, we saw this coming because all the things that are causing the higher prices and the inflation are still happening, right? They're not changing any of the methods. Sure, there's layoffs happening. There's some things being twisted around. But overall, the way the economy functions as far as the money, the helicopter money, is still in motion right now. About half of Americans say the cost of groceries is a major source of stress in their life right now. A major source of stress. Take a look at another report here on grocery prices here. Check this out. Take a look at this.
Well, everything that you see here, we got today. Today I just got all the produce, and look at everything. We got some paper towel, celery, lettuce, carrot, cucumber, sweet potato, onion, garlic, peppers, 4 avocados, cilantro, limes, mangoes, zucchinis, 2 kilos of bananas, 1 kilo of tomato, and 60 eggs. And guess how much this was? This was delivered to my house, as they do every week, 729 pesos, which is around 35 US dollars.
35 US dollars.
Check it out. Best of all, it's all local produce.
All local produce, folks. And look how much you can buy in Mexico versus the United States. Look at these prices.
One of the best deals. I actually only paid 30 US dollars for all of this meat. So I just got back from the butcher. This is everything that I got. I got a whole kilo of fresh ground beef, 2 kilos of organic and local chicken. This here is a whole kilo of sirloin and these 3 ribeyes, which is just over a kilo. Best of all, it was only 913 pesos, which is around 45 US dollars. And best of all, is that they gave me a 300 peso discount because I'm a long-term client. So I actually only paid 613 pesos, which is around 30 US dollars for all of this meat. How much is meat in your country?
Folks, I think I paid like 20 something dollars just for one steak a few weeks ago. And he's talking about all kinds of different cuts and chops and a lot of stuff for you got for I think under $30 here. So prices are cheaper in other places. Now you could say, yeah, the income's lower in those other countries too. But what good is higher income if prices are rising faster than your income? And if you're on fixed income, then you're even in deeper trouble because you're not getting the pay raises that you need. You're not getting the cost of living increase that you need to keep up in most cases. Now, some people are. But again, a lot of times people making more money, they'll just go out and get bigger loans. They'll buy bigger houses. And if you look at the average debt, it's even higher for some people that are making more money versus someone that's on a strict budget that's making less money, right? So this doesn't apply to everybody. If you're a disciplined individual, if you didn't go out and get yourself into a bunch of financial burden, then you may be doing okay right now. But prices are causing a lot of people a lot of stress, a lot of pain. Every time we look at it, the stress levels increase. More people living paycheck to paycheck, and things, they're just not changing, right? The jobs are supposed to come back to the U.S. We told you here it wasn't going to happen. Some jobs are coming back, but overall it's not happening. And speaking of jobs, look at the disasters jobs report. I'm sure most of you have seen this, but just wanted to give you my take on it because I was out of town for a few days, so I'm kind of getting caught up on some older news from late last week and some other information here. Folks, I mean, let's just look how bad this is. I mean, of course, a lot of news outlets are talking about this, but let me give you a look back on how bad this is. So in July, we saw just 73,000 jobs added. That's pretty stunning, according to what some people would say about that. And the monthly totals for May and June were revised down by a combined 258,000. So even the numbers that came out at first ended up being worse. And so now we're seeing 73,000. Is it going to be even worse than that when we look back? Will that number be downward revised a month from now? So it's pretty awful out there, folks. And they're saying it's stalling out right now. That is a key economist over at, I won't say the name of the company. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, are you feeling it? Do you feel like things are getting better, getting easier? Or are things continuing to slide in the wrong direction, which is a higher cost of living? And the more people are tapped out financially, they're going to have to pull back on spending. We're seeing it at Starbucks. We're seeing it with rentals and especially Airbnb rentals, those are seeing a lot higher vacancies, and just rentals in general. We're seeing a multi-year high in vacancies in rentals because people are so tapped out economically and financially. Take a look at this. And this only goes back to 2019, but you can see the big surge over the past few years, and it continues to climb now to 7.1% vacancy rate. That's more than a 6-year high, and it's looking like it's going to continue to go higher. So some of the people that moved out of their parents' home are going to have to move back, or they're going to have to get a bunch of roommates. And the more people that roommate together or live together, it's going to be more vacancies opening up. So expect continued weakness in rentals, and that's just one of the signs of how the economy is slowing down majorly. And our good friend Ray Dalio's out there once again, sending a warning of a horrid economic collapse. Now, he's been saying this for years. He says it's going to be horrid. That's the word that he used. And, I don't think anybody knows the timing, but we do know that we're headed into some troubled waters here when you see so many people struggling just to get by, 150,000 a year income earners struggling to get by. Dalio also said we're in the later stages of a debt cycle. And I heard another economist refer to this as late stage capitalism, meaning this whole system is about ready to come down. And what's it going to be? More money being thrown at the problem, more helicopter money, just to give more money, go more stimulus checks. And that kicked off inflation in 2020, 2021, and even in 2022. That kick-started inflation, and we've seen inflation continue. Even though it's slowed, it's still continuing, and prices are continuing to go higher. Right, now back to those awful job numbers for a minute. Remember, looking backwards at the backwards revisions, meaning they changed the number a month or two months after it came out. If you look at the revisions and factor that into the past few months, the revised figures show an average of 35,000 jobs added per month. 35,000 over the past 3 months. So when you take the last 3 months combined, you add up all the jobs, the revisions, 35,000 a month. The unemployment rate did remain at 4.2%, but more individuals left the labor force. They're not even in the labor force because once you're unemployed for so long, you're not even considered a statistic anymore. You're not even considered looking for work. What they didn't factor in is that a lot of people were looking for work and they couldn't find a job or a decent enough job, right? Have you ever been out of work and you found a job, but it didn't pay enough to even make it worth your time? So in other words, you would have still been broke while working a job. So many people would rather be broke while not working a job than working a job and still being broke. So some people are unemployed by choice. It's crazy. And some real estate investors are starting to take notice at the dropping and falling rents. And we're seeing some slowdown actually in investors coming in and buying up housing. In fact, it's noted here out of CNBC that housing is noted to be the weakest part of the economy. And what they're seeing is an 8% drop in housing investment in the second half. That's according to Goldman Sachs, folks. So even the investors are taking notice of the people that are falling behind on their rent and now the vacancy rate climbing. So investors are going to now start stepping back out of the housing market even more. And that's going to lead to some bigger inventories in the housing market and likely more falling prices. But it's going to take a lot to bring this housing market down because, remember, a lot of big money came in and bought real estate a few years ago. And we're seeing a lot more real estate now in the hands of multi-billionaires than we have ever before. It's an all-time high of billionaires owning real estate. And when you look at the people that's seeing their wealth growing the fastest, the people gaining the most wealth are the people at the very top, the top 10%, including CEOs. Look at this. It's even at Wall Street Journal. A few CEOs, the pay keeps growing by the billions. Big stock awards have grown much bigger for CEOs of, names a few companies here, Broadcom and others, driven by market gains and in some cases complex multipliers. Well, one of the multipliers is greed, folks. So they're giving less raises And in addition to giving low raises and keeping most of the money at the top, as far as these companies, these businesses, what they're doing is looking for ways to eliminate the workforce. They're looking for AI to replace you. They're looking for just handing off more work to other people to get rid of you and get rid of as many workers as they can, because that's the name of the game, folks. It's all about profits. It's all about the bottom line. Is this a late stage end game scenario where we're on the verge of something big, or are things just going to continue to get worse slowly and people are going to continue to struggle keeping their heads above water? I mean, please let me know what you think about this down in the comments. The awful, abysmal jobs report, the highest higher vacancy rate, highest in over 7 years. And we're going to get into that more in the next report. But we're going to leave it at that, folks. Let me know what you think about this down in comments. The grocery bills, the people we heard at the very beginning, grocery prices still going up. You get a lot more for your money in Mexico. So it's not just that inflation's rising everywhere. But then again, incomes are lower too in other countries. So you got to kind of balance that out and do that comparative view of that. Anyways, let me know what you think about this down in the comments, everybody. Keep stacking bull to the bust. Bye for now. Big love. Peace.